Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. I apologise for yesterday, but I was running around and unable to get my podcast together. Let me start with something I saw in the early morning. Banksy, Love by Alexander Milov features two adults sitting back to back with their inner children reaching out. I thought it was pretty powerful. Don't forget, we got Mindspeak this Saturday. We're back with Pradeep Panrana of ARM Cement. Have a look at the promo that we put together. That's on Rich Wrap-Ups. Looking forward to hosting him tremendously. Share price has come down dramatically, and we did some analysis on a replacement cost basis. It's just trading at a discount, more than 50%. Macro thoughts, I think it's all looks set to rally into year-end risk assets. I think will rally. We're seeing a rally building some momentum now, and I think we'll see it build more into the year-end. I think it's clear that Janet Yellen has now blinked, or at least that's the perception in the market now, and I think that's going to give some respite. It's going to release the pressure valve. And therefore we should see it, and I'll come to the sorts of things and levels I was thinking of, because it is a change of thinking on my part, but I've been giving clues to that. I think Kenya Pix tweeted dawn on Lake Magadi, and beautiful photograph from ASAYF, at ASAYF if you're interested. I'll put up a photograph I took 856 days ago of the hot springs of Lake Magadi, and also another one of clouds reflected in Lake Magadi, and that took me back to Hafez. The sky is a suspended blue ocean, the stars are the fish that swim, the planets are the white whales I sometimes hitch a ride on, and the sun and all light have forever fused themselves into my heart, and upon my skin there is only one rule of this wild playground. For every sign Hafiz has ever seen reads the same. They all say, have fun, my dear, have fun in the beloved's divine game, oh, in the beloved's wonderful game. I love that. The sky is a suspended blue ocean, and those clouds reflected in Lake Magadi reminded me of that. This looks rather fabulous, the penthouse at Dorchester, and I wouldn't mind putting myself up there for a few nights, I must admit. Let me try and swing that somehow. Russia in Syria, Russian radar locks onto Turkish fighter jets as Moscow steps up airstrikes against opposition targets. Turkey said that radar used by Russian aircraft and its surface-to-air missile systems in Syria locked onto Turkish jets as the Russian air campaign intensifies. The Turkish military said that 8 Turkish F-16 fighters patrolling the Turkish-Syrian border had been threatened by a MiG-29 and later by an anti-aircraft missile system. In both cases, the threat consisted only of Russian use of radar for a limited period. The NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that Russian actions were very serious, even dangerous. It doesn't look like an accident. We've seen 2 of them over the weekend, he said. And on the 3rd of October, in that piece I wrote about Putin, I said you could hear the squealing start immediately from Ankara to Riyadh. And essentially what Putin is asserting is control over Syrian airspace. And I think that's why, it is, I'd be very surprised if this happens the other way around. Break silence on air-to-air rules of conduct. This is the US message to Russia yesterday. US Defense Secretary Ash Carter called on Moscow on Tuesday to urgently respond to proposed rules for air-to-air conduct over Syria, as he condemned Russia's seriously irresponsible and unprofessional violation of Turkish airspace. The United States and Russian militaries held a secure video conference last week in which Pentagon officials suggested protocols aimed at preventing a mishap. But since then, Moscow has failed to follow up, Carter said. We are waiting for the Russians. They owe us a response, he told reporters. They should come in and do it right now. And that took me back to September the 30th, when I found myself in front of my television. And I was watching the press briefing that the Secretary of Defense was giving. And I tweeted, seems to be waiting for a meeting with Shoigu and his people. And I think nothing has apparently changed since I tweeted that. Syria is not going to be a quagmire as the media has predicted. This is an article in the Counter-Punch. To the contrary, Putin is going to cut through these guys like crap through a goose. The reason Putin will succeed where the US failed in its war on ISIS is because the Russian airstrikes are going to be accompanied by a formidable mop-up operation that will overpower the jihadi groups on the ground. This is already happening as we speak. The Russian Air Force has been pounding terrorist targets across the Idlib governorate for the last few days, as well as ISIS strongholds in the east at Rafah. This is interesting, and I don't know if it's true. On Sunday, according to a report filed by South Front, roughly 700 militants surrendered to members of the 147th Syrian Tank Brigade shortly after bombers had attacked nearby cities of Madej, Marat, al-Numan, Jisr al-Shigua, Sarakib, and Sarmin. This is the pattern we expect to see in the weeks ahead. Russian bombers will soften targets on the front lines, ground troops will move into position, and an untold number of jihadis will either flee, surrender, or get cut down where they stand. Bottom line, Syria is not going to be a quagmire as the media has predicted. To the contrary, Putin is going to cut through these guys like crap through a goose. My sympathies lie with Putin in this regard. I think these folks, these beheaders, these crazies are crazy. And, I think using them as a tool to weaken Assad is a wrong policy. And I think Assad protected the minorities in a way that we just simply haven't recognized in this entire narrative. ISIL, torture porn, dashcam crashes, foil, blog, we are what we internet. In late August, an unknown shadowy group reportedly kidnapped 7 fighters of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Their plan was to torture and kill them, and live-stream the act over a hidden part of the internet known as the dark web. While this all turned out to be a hoax, the excitement it caused speaks broadly to our fascination with the morbid and a desire to see our enemies suffer. While technology itself may be amoral, the actions facilitated through it plainly are not. We are becoming what we are fighting, and technology is helping, and that's an interesting point, isn't it? We are afflicted with what Edgar Allan Poe calls the imp of the perverse, the desire to do or see something we know is wrong or harmful. Fictional or not, all of us have gawked at the peril and misfortune of others. Growing up, I remember viewing a film called Faces of Death, a movie that captured the unfortunate deaths of real people. One scene revealed a young man parachuting into what turned out to be an alligator-infested swamp. Once he landed, he was eaten alive. I was riveted with anxiety. I knew what was going to happen. I knew he was going to die, and I couldn't turn away. I couldn't help myself. Poe asks us to imagine standing on the edge of a cliff. We peer into the abyss. We grow sick and dizzy. Our first impulse is to shrink from the danger. Unaccountably, we remain. By slow degrees, our sickness and dizziness and horror become merged in a cloud of unnameable feeling. By gradation still more imperceptible, this cloud assumes shape, one which chills the very marrow of our bones with the fierceness of the delight of its horror. It is merely the idea of what would be our sensations during the sweeping precipitancy of a fall from such a height. I, for one, am not keen on those sorts of experiences, I'm afraid. The New World Disorder by Philip Gurevich. On October 20th, 2011, the day that the Libyan rebel fighters found Colonel Muammar Gaddafi hiding in a desert culvert, hauled him out and killed him. Sodomized him with a bottle, point of fact. President Obama called a press conference in the Rose Garden and announced we had achieved our objectives. Hillary Clinton put it more archly, telling a reporter we saw he died. The previous spring, when the United States decided to join in the NATO airstrikes against Libya, the White House said that regime change was not the objective, and that persuaded Russia not to veto a Security Council mandate authorizing action to protect Libyans from their ruler by all necessary measures. Russia was furious about NATO's mission creep, but Obama said, faced with the potential of mass atrocities and a call from the Libyan people, the United States and our friends and allies stopped Gaddafi's forces in their tracks. Now, he said, America's part was done and the Libyans were free to establish full democracy. The President added, this comes at a time when we see the strength of American leadership across the world. We've taken out al-Qaeda leaders. We've put them on the path to defeat. We're winding down the war in Iraq and have begun a transition in Afghanistan. And I tend to agree with Putin, I'm afraid, on this point. I think what came after was infinitely worse than what existed. China's yuan overtakes Japan's yen as the world's fourth most used payments currency. Quite a development, don't you think? Let's move to the currency markets. The euro is at 112.38. Dollar index is 95.50. Japanese yen 120.02. The pound is at 152.90. Swissy 0.9663. Aussie has been on the bounce lately, and I'm bullish about the Aussie. 0.7196. I'm bullish, and I think you should be buying the Aussie. India rupee 65.215. South Korean won 1161.49. Real firm at 3.855. Egyptian pound 782.96, and dollar rand 12.48.92 when I had a look last. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and I've changed my mind a little bit here. I think for now we're probably going to sell off further. Euro dollar, when I came in this morning, was 112.61. I'm putting up a 3-month chart. We're now at 112.38. I think that we can get up to about 114.50 on the euro dollar. What I'm very bullish about is the New Zealand dollar. Let me put up a 1-year chart of that. That's at 66.10. I think that's a very big buy. Dairy prices on the rebound, and I think if risk on comes back, which I'm saying it is coming back, then I think the New Zealand dollar can outperform. And I think so can the Aussie dollar, which is at 0.7198. I think that can outperform back up to about 0.75. So I'm bullish about that as well. This is a change of thinking, but it's been the same thinking since the beginning of the year. So we are always allowed to change. Others are used to change intraday. Gold, let me put up a 6-month chart, and I'm changing my mind here as well. We're at 1147. Previous resistance at 1155. I think we're going to break through that. We're going to see a rally up to about 1200. Crude oil similarly now trading at 49.70 on NYMEX. I think we can get to 55 by year end. That's in a more bullish environment. I think that's what's going to play out. I like this photograph, the promenade at the Dorchester, where high sofas and faux marble pillars make it hard to see who is talking to whom. Anshu Jain in an interview says emerging markets are a worry. That link is under emerging markets. On rich wrap-ups, he pointed to Brazil, South Africa, Russia, Turkey as other emerging markets that harbour risks. Holger tweeted, IMF has cut Brazil's growth outlook to -3% this year. You remember, I'd like to think that was an early warning signal on the real. Let's move on to Africa. Congo's opposition coalescing to stop Kabila from extending rule. Investors will have to brace themselves for increasingly erratic decision-making as Kabila tries to figure out who's loyal to him and who isn't. Dismissals and resignations have weakened Kabila, who finds himself in a precarious position at the head of an increasingly fragile ruling coalition, said Anais de Mulder. She's from Verisk Maplecroft. IMF expects Congo's economy to grow 9.2% this year. They're really Ethiopia, Ivory Coast, current outliers. There is already a proxy battle underway for control of Lualaba between Kabila and Gatumbi. which threatens to inflame ethnic and political tensions. That's a comment from Philip de Ponte, Africa head at New York-based advisory firm Eurasian Group. Mining companies could be caught in the political crossfire, he's saying. Let me put up a photograph of President Kabila, and I think he's going to struggle. One, the street is a lot stronger. Two, everyone's peeling off. I think Moishi Katumbi is a serious threat to Kabila. I follow some Twitter handles in Mozambique, and yesterday Tlakama, Alfonso Tlakama, head of Renamo, who's been in a sort of war, as it were, with the government, promised to come out of hiding, abjures revenge, and then, interestingly, you see the president says dialogue to resume very soon, he predicted. So that's a positive step forward. South Africa's September business confidence was at its lowest level in 22 years. South African all-share, however, is up 4.62% this year and has been outperforming the rest of the sub-Saharan market indices. Dollar Rand, when I had a look last, was 13.48. I think it's time to buy the Rand for a rebound into year-end. The Egyptian pound 783, Egyptian EGX30 down 18.9% year-to-date. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has begun to name his cabinet 6 months after taking power. Reuters reporting that the UK crime agency authorised to seize cash from Nigeria ex-oil minister. And that's a big step forward in Buhari's campaign. You know, I think at least $20 billion has been going missing. You can plug that gap. You know, he's making up a lot of the oil shortfall. Nigerian oil shares down 12.48% year-to-date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 11.53% year-to-date. Let's move to Kenya. Yesterday I attended the Kenya Tanzania Business Forum. A lot of excitement was generated, a very interesting conversation. Kikwete and President Kenyatta both reaching out to the business community. My trade of the year, last few weeks, is to buy 1-year Kenyan Treasury bills, borrow in dollars, and run the carry. And I think you're going to get an FX pop, and you're getting, 1-year Treasury bills are probably going to be around 23%. So you need a 23% devaluation to lose money. Kenya shilling 103.25. Nairobi all share fell 0.34% yesterday. It's down 12.25% year to date. NSE 20 fell 0.49% yesterday to close at a fresh 2015 low. That's down 20.15% year to date, but I've noticed it's on the bounce today. Nairobi all share, as we said, that's down 12.25% year to date. Chibitwe, and everyone's getting worried about El Nino. Heavy floods in Garissa last night. This was the night before last. And if you want to check into any listed share, the link is on Rich Wrap-Ups at the bottom. You can expect results and so forth. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful.